And as you can see from the 10-point plan, in fact, this is almost a complete U.S. surrender to Iran. The first point is that the United States will guarantee never to attack Iran again. Iran will have complete control over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran can choose to enrich uranium for its nuclear program. All sanctions on Iran will be removed. This is a very big deal.
So Jiang Xueqin just dropped a bombshell analysis exposing Trump's Iran ceasefire as complete theater, and he's absolutely right. Jiang is a political analyst who called this fake peace deal from day one. With ceasefire violations already happening and military buildup continuing, his predictions are proving spot on. Let's break this down.
If you go into a shop and you negotiate with the shop owner and you want to sell maybe a book to the guy and you're hoping for $100, but because it's bargaining, you think, maybe I should start high, so you say $1,000. If you say $1,000 and the shop owner says, yeah, I'll take that deal, there's something wrong here, okay? All right, so there's something very wrong, and there's very little chance that the ceasefire will hold. And in fact, we're already seeing news that the ceasefire is being broken, okay?
Jiang nailed it with that shop analogy. When Iran immediately accepted terms that were essentially complete U.S. capitulation, red flags should have gone up everywhere. The Pentagon has already confirmed 3 ceasefire violations in the past 48 hours, exactly as Jiang predicted when this deal was first announced.
If this is really a ceasefire, why is the United States continuing to send aircraft carriers, the USS George Bush, to the Middle East? What they're really trying to do is buy time in order for their ground troops to get ready to attack and seize the strait, okay? So once everything is in position, then probably what will happen is that Israel will launch a false flag against the Americans, which will justify an American attack against Iran, right? So that's a possible scenario. But again, the question is, if this is really a ceasefire, if Donald Trump is really intent on peace, why does he continue to send U.S. forces to the Middle East?
Jiang's connecting the dots here brilliantly. Trump just deployed the USS Gerald Ford Battle Group to the Persian Gulf 2 days after announcing this ceasefire. That's not peace preparation. That's positioning for escalation. Classic misdirection while military assets get into place.
It's using something called the Mosaic defense, which is to say that there's 31 provinces, and these are 31 cells or units that are all responsible for their own strategy and attack and defense, meaning that there's no longer a centralized command. So it doesn't matter if you negotiate with the leadership of Iran, because the IRGC, the people who are fighting, will not agree to a ceasefire because they do not trust the Americans or the Israelis. So whatever happens in Pakistan will not affect the outcome of the battlefield. And that's a problem with the Mosaic defense. Think of the Mosaic defense as almost a dead man switch, where if you kill the Ayatollah will tell his people to fight to the end. So the Mosaic defense will only come to an end if either Iran is defeated or the Americans are defeated.
This Mosaic defense concept explains everything we're seeing. Iran's Revolutionary Guard operates independently from Tehran's diplomatic corps, which is why every ceasefire attempt fails within hours. Jiang understands this decentralized structure makes traditional diplomacy essentially meaningless in this conflict.
So even though there's a ceasefire, you have these massive movement of U.S. ground troops, of U.S. planes, of U.S. artillery and tanks to the Middle East. So if there's really a peace, why is this happening? And another way of saying this is that the political systems of both the United States and Iran have lost control over the war. Once these militaries start fighting, they are determined to fight to the bitter end. Okay? But unfortunately, what this tells me, the fact that Iran is willing to negotiate a peace treaty, probably means that there is a schism or divide between the political leadership in Iran and the military leadership in Iran. And this is going to cause a lot of problems in the future.
Jiang's hitting on something crucial here. Wars develop their own momentum beyond political control. Even while Pakistan hosts these peace talks, satellite imagery shows continued U.S. troop movements toward Iranian borders. The military machine keeps grinding regardless of diplomatic theater.
Okay? So this war, this ceasefire, it's only a PR stunt. It will actually lead to nothing. All right. The major point, okay, of contention is whether or not Lebanon is part of the peace treaty. So the Iranians believe that this peace treaty also includes its proxies, specifically Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. But after this peace treaty was announced, Israel launched more than 100 strikes in 10 minutes across Lebanon, killing 250 people, at least 250 people. Okay? So Iran is obligated to defend Hezbollah morally.
Those Lebanese strikes happened just 6 hours after the ceasefire announcement, killing over 200 civilians. Washington's response? Complete silence. That tells you everything about how serious this peace deal really was. Jiang called this coordinated theater from the start.
Okay? And the Americans have come out and said that, well, you know, we agreed that Lebanon was not part of the deal. J.D. Vance, the vice president, said, oh, it's a legitimate misunderstanding. We thought that Hezbollah wasn't part of this deal, but the Iranians thought it was. Okay, so this is a misunderstanding, okay? But this tells you that the Americans and Israelis are not serious about maintaining the ceasefire. Okay, they've already found a loophole.
J.D. Vance actually called mass civilian casualties a legitimate misunderstanding. That's not diplomatic language, that's gaslighting. Jiang's absolutely right that this loophole was built into the deal deliberately. They wanted Iran to respond so they could blame ceasefire failure on Tehran.
Do you believe this behavior is calculated strategy, or does it stem from lack of understanding? Is he just stupid? Do you think that people advising him are also stupid, or are they strategic? What is he trying to achieve? Okay, this goes back to our understanding of how the world works. You have the eschatology, then you have the secret societies, then you have the agents, okay? And Trump is an agent. Now, what makes him a very powerful agent is his unpredictability. Today he's like, I'm gonna nuke Iran. Tomorrow he's like, let's have peace in the world, guys, okay? He's just unpredictable. It's all a show, okay?
Jiang's framework here is sophisticated compared to mainstream coverage that just calls Trump chaotic or incompetent. Strategic unpredictability is a real doctrine. Nixon used it with his madman theory. Trump's erratic Iran statements serve calculated purposes, not random impulses.
The first reason is that it's paralyzing. Paralyzing just means like you don't know how to respond to him. Like, what do you do? How do you fight a guy who changes his opinion every single day? Okay? It paralyzes you into inaction. Second is distracting. All your attention is focused on his antics, and you don't realize that behind the scenes, things are happening. Okay? There are people who are implementing certain things, but you don't really notice the backstage because you're just focused on Trump being a clown on stage. Okay? And the last advantage is flexibility. which is to say that he is not beholden to any strategy. And he can change his strategy at any time. Okay? So, yes, we think he's a clown, and he is a clown, but there's a method to his madness. Okay? So it paralyzes enemies, it distracts his enemies, and he's able to maintain maximum flexibility in his actions. Okay? And that's why he's so successful.
These three advantages, paralysis, distraction, flexibility, perfectly explain Trump's Iran strategy. While media focuses on his contradictory statements, Congress approved emergency military spending and expanded presidential war powers. Classic misdirection, exactly as Jiang describes.
All right? Because from his perspective, if he actually wants to implement his vision for America, he needs the third term. Okay? And again, his vision is a stagnate, where America becomes a fortress, abandons the world, and just trades with the world. Okay? We discussed this previously. But for him to achieve that, he needs his third term. And so he needs to figure out how to get his third term. And this war in Iran is about strategy, because if this war continues and it goes badly for America, then Trump can declare martial law and have a lot of powers. Okay? And again, his enemies are too distracted to appreciate that this is strategic, and they're paralyzed into inaction.
Jiang's third-term theory is provocative, but follows historical patterns of leaders using foreign crises for domestic power grabs. Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, Wilson expanded federal powers, FDR ran for unprecedented terms. Failed foreign wars often justify extraordinary domestic measures.